Well, hello there, friends and kin. I hope you're well. I do apologize for my tardiness with Sundee Service this week. You're going to be getting Sundee Service on a Tuesday. And I had some health issues that prevented me from being able to be out and about over the weekend, and nothing serious, nothing to be alarmed about. But I'm feeling much better, and Sundee Service is something I'm very committed to. So even if it's a little late, Sundee Service is coming. And I appreciate the patience. And as always, I appreciate this time we get to spend together, and I appreciate you taking the time to join me and stopping by for a visit. And today I'm spoken on a Arturo Fuente Hemingway work of art with the Maduro wrapper. Arturo Fuente has always been one of my go-to cigars. Uh, if I if I'm ever lost in a humidor, if I pick up something by them, I know I'm not going to be dissatisfied. But the Hemingway line is one that I've always had a particular fondness for, and occasionally they do them with a Maduro wrapper. Uh, they're not consistently made, so it's just sort of like you get them when you get them. But whenever I see somebody has them out, I'll usually snag a couple. And the work of art, I know it looks like I've already, you know, I've already worked on it for quite a while, but it's not a very long cigar, and it's made to as something you can enjoy when you don't really have a whole lot of time, but you still want a fine cigar. So, moving on to our reading while we're here today, I do believe we are on our last verse. So, this is the very last verse of the Carmina Magistra in Roger Horne's The Witch's Devil. Verse 13. O beloved, whose name is the moonlit dark, O beloved, redder than the day, O beloved, whose name is a tuneless dance, O beloved, louder than the pipe, O beloved, whose name is a stitchless shirt, O beloved, sharper than the thorn, O beloved, whose name is a waterless stream, O beloved, deeper than the sea, O beloved, whose name is a stepless stair, O beloved, longer than the way. Antecessor, come and carry me. I have nothing which is not thine. This final verse, to me, is Horne delivering his pure, heartfelt adoration for the Master of Spirits. And these verses, are interesting to me because they represent things that negate each other. Like when he's talking about his beloved's name, a tuneless dance, louder than the pipe, whose name is a stitchless shirt, sharper than the thorn, and sharper than the thorn. He's presenting the Master of Spirits in contradictions, paradoxes. And that's something that has not been unusual for this entire work. Presenting the horned god, the witch's devil, as a walking paradox. He is a power that exists in the in-between. He is the liminal space. He is the personification of liminality. He is something that should not exist, yet exists everywhere. And that, I think that's the whole point of it. The verse in which Horne shows the witch's devil the most affection, the most pure adoration, surrendering, because in that last line, "Antecessor, come and carry me. I have nothing which is not thine." He is completely giving himself over to this power and embracing liminality personified. That space in between where nothing purely makes sense. Everything is a paradox. Everything contradicts itself. And Horne just surrenders to it. There's a power in surrender. And it's something you don't really hear spoken of a lot in magic or witchcraft circles, because the whole idea of what we do is to find a sense of personal power and build upon it. At least that seems to be the underlying motivation of most people. It's self-empowerment. Almost every act of magic where we're trying to draw financial abundance to us, or we're trying to protect ourselves from unwanted contact or unwanted energies. This is all an act of, all of these things are acts of reclamation of control. It's us seizing our personal sovereignty and fortifying our autonomy. Yet, in the very last line of this verse, it is all about surrender. Saying to the witch's devil, "I have nothing that is not yours." And that in and of itself, because we've talked many of these verses about mysteries. And I think this is one of the big mysteries, is the power through surrender. And this isn't the first place I've picked up on that concept. It's actually very prevalent in addiction recovery programs, and which I do have some personal experience with. I grew up in a recovery household, and I've had my own personal experiences with substance abuse and giving it up. But the in that world, in that particular spiritual journey, that is a central mystery. And I know it's kind of weird to talk about recovery programs in the term of mysteries, but it's there. Trust me, it's there. Recovery programs, not to get off on too much on this tangent, but recovery programs are basically spiritual alchemy in action. It's all about breaking down the person who decides to go down that road. Break them down, reconfigure them, solidify them, and crank them out the other side a bettered person. It's the entire process of turning lead into gold. A complete breakdown and reconfiguration and reassembly, and if everything goes well, cranking out a completely new person on the other side of the experience. But the first step is always that act of surrender. being honest with yourself about the nature of yourself and your surroundings, and being willing to let go of control. And then, oddly enough, somewhere in that process of letting go of control, you find a sense of power. And I don't know that that's what Horne was consciously trying to communicate here. But when I read that last line in particular, that's what slapped me across the face. Is yet again I'm encountering this concept of power through surrender, sovereignty through surrender. Now, I'm not sure how comfortable a lot of a lot of witches are with saying they've handed their will and their life completely over to the witch's devil. Some may. Some may have a very different way of looking at it. To others, it's more of a walk hand in hand. And I don't think either depiction is superior or inferior or more accurate. I think that walk is a deeply personal one and can manifest in a number of different ways. And there is no singular right way to present that relationship. But I think one thing that they all have in common, and this isn't even limited to the witch's devil or the horned god. This could be applied to any deity you have a working relationship with. By surrender, it's not necessarily giving the entirety of yourself over to another divine power, so much as it is an act of opening yourself up to their guidance, being willing to listen, and being willing to allow them to transmit knowledge into you and through you. So that is a surrender. That is a valid type of surrender. But I think the bottom line, and I mean, I can't read Mr. Horne's mind, but I think for him, and the point he's probably trying to communicate here, is a willingness to open yourself up to the Master of Spirits, allow him entry, and allow yourself to receive the knowledge that he teaches and receive the wisdom that he has to offer, and then to allow that a home within you and a continuity through your actions and through your achievements, your deeds. Well, my friends and kin, reading through this Carmina Magistra with you has been, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And we may revisit it sometime down the line. And, maybe at some point I may incorporate some joint prayer in these Sundee services. I've been thinking about that a lot. So instead of just doing a reading and a discussion, we do, maybe a type of invocation in the beginning, and then we do, our normal reading and discussion, and then we wrap things up with a type of benediction and conclusion. And I think that structure would be good for the energy exchange we're building between us here. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. If you have any thoughts to share on that regard, would you like to see something that looks a little bit more like a perhaps even a conventional Sunday service at a church, but just reformatted for people like us, for the folk of the fairy faith, the folk of the craft. I know I would enjoy that. And, I wouldn't look at it as any sort of a blasphemous jab per se, but I think there's something that not everybody, but some people find comforting in that format and its familiarity. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am always open to critiques, criticisms, suggestions, and your thoughts. Getting feedback from you means the world to me. And thank you so much to each and every one of you that take the time to watch these videos from start to finish, and also to like and comment on these videos, which helps me show up in people's algorithms and helps people find their way to this channel. And together we can all in our own unique ways, our own unique individual ways, contribute to the growth of our fairy faith. That's my goal anyway. Well, that being said, friends and kin, let's why don't we do some card pulls for weekly guidance. Be right back and grab my deck. For those of you that don't follow me on Facebook or Instagram, because I've made a couple of posts about it there, I've acquired a new card deck that I have become very, very fond of. And I found it on Etsy. It is called the Arcana deck. And what this is, because you guys, most all of you by now know that I practice cartomancy. So I use playing cards for my divination. That's not the only type of divination I do. I've also used runes, and I was very proficient with them for a long time. In fact, I strictly used runes for a good chunk of my my journey back at the very beginning, from my teenage years well into my late 20s. It was primarily runes and nothing else. And then I started. I looked at geomancy, which was a popular divination method documented in the Renaissance. Didn't really connect to that very deeply, but it was something I was willing to try. I've also used the Celtic Owam alphabet, and I've also used the Welsh Coelbren. I have a book by John Michael Greer that goes into detail on that alphabet and a method of using it for divination. And I found it very straightforward. So I don't know if you're sensing a theme here yet, but alphabet-based systems or sigil-based systems of divination, that was my preferred method for a very long time. And I think that's because my first few encounters with tarot, I don't know, it just didn't click. And I tried to force it to on multiple occasions, and for the longest time, I just couldn't relate to it. And then one day, this was about the time I discovered Roger Horne's work. When I read his book, Folk Witchcraft, he gave a little blurb in there on how to use playing cards. And I thought to myself, well, I've never tried that. I'll give it a whirl. And lo and behold, it actually spoke to me very clearly. And it computed. Something about it just resonated with me. And then Horne eventually wrote a book, Cartomancy, which I do have. And show it to you real quick for those who haven't seen it. This is I mean, it's an excellent, excellent book. If you want to deep dive into the lore of cartomancy. And he provides sources that give you multiple different interpretations for the cards. But he has his own system that he's compiled as far as specific meanings for every card, and he expands on that in here. The only critique I have of his presentation is that he interprets the king of each suit in almost a purely negative way. And from between his work and a few other sources I've added into the mix of my sources, my interpretations of the face cards go a little bit deeper than that. And I don't assign them purely good or bad qualities. They're more like every face card to me has a spectrum of personality aspects, and using it in divination, usually the rest of the reading will kind of clue you in. And I know for some of our weekly pulls, I've drawn a face card and talked about the spectrum. But so that's really the only critique I have of his book. Other than that, it's an amazing deep dive on the subject. So once I got that, he also talks about the Marseille Tarot in here. And so I got a Marseille Tarot deck just to give it a whirl. Utilizing his methods, I was able to read that with relative clarity, and I still use my Marseille deck every once in a while. So I started getting a little bit more comfortable with tarot. And that sense of disconnection I felt when I was younger just wasn't really there anymore. And so I started getting more open to it. And over the last several years, I've acquired a couple of different tarot decks that I communicate well with. And I don't know, it's been kind of eye-opening seeing how I can relate to it now. I sort of feel like it's a challenge that I was a hurdle I was able to jump. So on to this specific deck. Sorry for the derail. That's just the way my ADHD brain works. So this specific deck allows you to combine both tarot and cartomancy. This is a deck of standard playing cards that includes the major arcana. So you will have, the 4 of clubs, the 8 of clubs, but then we also have our major arcana. There's the star. The artwork is incredible. I love this deck. And the only other major difference is the face cards in every suit now include a page. So you have King, Queen, Jack, Page. And so this deck gives you options. Also includes 2 jokers. So this deck, again, gives you options. If you want to read purely tarot and pull just from that current of tradition, just omit the 2 jokers. And you pretty much have a standard tarot deck. It's just your minor arcana don't have the pictures. So you'll treat it like a Marseille deck. Now, if you want to read strictly cartomancy, remove the major arcana and remove the pages from each of the suits, and you have a standard card deck that you can do regular cartomancy. Or if you're a glutton for punishment like me, you just leave everything intact and you pull from both cartomancy traditions and tarot all at the same time until your brain explodes and blood shoots out your nose and ears. And for those who may not know what I'm talking about when I say Marseille Tarot deck, This is one of the older tarot styles. It does predate the Rider-Waite style tarot deck. I don't know all the specific history behind it, other than just that one little tidbit. But I'll bust this out to show you what it looks like, and I mean, it pretty much is the same size as most tarot decks. I can't remember if this is French or Italian. I think it's Italian. I think. I'm not entirely sure. Forgive my ignorance on that, but that's one of your major arcana cards. But the rest of the cards look like this, where you'll see the cups, the coins, the swords, and the rods. And for people that aren't used to looking at the, the suits, they can throw you off a little bit at first. But once you learn to recognize the sword, the coin, most of the cards have a number written on them, so you'll know if it's like the one of wands, or the two of wands, or the ace of wands. So let's do. That's an example of the good old Marseille tarot deck. So using our hybridized deck, let's do a quick card pull for our weekly guidance. One off the top here. Ooh. This is definitely one to get your attention. Pardon me 1 second, I think I hear one of my cats. Pardon me. Friends and kin, I apologize for that. I have two cats that are indoor-outdoor, and a couple of them like to get into it with each other, and I thought I heard them starting to fight. I like to break them up because they have hurt each other. Not badly, but they're all good. Kitties are happy, and we've got some talking to do. The Devil Reversed. So the devil, to me, and I know that the school of thought on interpreting all of the major arcana, there's a lot of symbolism to pull from. But the devil, to me, is vice, addiction, temptation, even physical and worldly pleasure. And there are schools of thought that will tell you that immersing yourself in yourself in those things can lead to wisdom. It can lead to enlightenment. It can lead to breaking through the boundaries that we put up between ourselves and otherworldly experience. Because in all the depictions of the devil, when we see the people in the chains, a lot of folks in the past interpreted that as people being prisoner to their vices. But if you notice, in almost all of the depictions, even on this one, the chains aren't tight enough to actually keep the person bound. Meaning that the person can slip out of those chains anytime they want. They're not being forced to wear them. They're doing it of their own free will. And that's got some deep levels of symbolism, because that's the case with addiction, period. It's something we choose. The same thing with vices, whatever you want to call it. Giving into our temptations, these are all choices we make. It may feel like we're bound to these things, but the decision to act on them is completely on us. So we wear those chains of our own free will. Now with this deck, the only reversals I read are the face cards of the suits and the major arcana. So this being reversed is significant. That means beware of vices, addictions, things that hold sway over you. Are they getting to the point where you find yourself altering your life to accommodate for them? It's kind of interesting because earlier in this video, when I was talking about the last two lines of the Carmina Magistra, and we were talking about surrender and finding power through surrender, which is also a central mystery to recovery programs. It's interesting we draw that card after that being a part of our earlier discussion. Being able to admit something is a vice, is an addiction, is a very difficult thing. It damages the ego. It horrifically mutilates our self-image, our self-esteem, our sense of self-worth, because almost all the time, vices and addictions, which it's not always chemical dependency. It can take a myriad different forms. Everything from gambling to obsessively overeating to pornography. Vices and addictions have many, many, many different faces. But we typically do them to self-medicate, to numb ourselves to reality because reality is too painful. Or some aspect of reality we feel is beyond our ability to grasp and master and control. And so we just numb ourselves to the experience. And when I see the devil reversed, it tells me that the time has come to admit that something is problematic, and that if something doesn't change, it has the potential to cause irreparable damage. It's a very serious card, and yet even more serious when it shows up reversed. And if your vices, addictions, if anybody listening to this is struggling with that, there is help. And there's no shame in asking for it. There's a multitude of options. If 12-step programs are not your cup of tea, which I didn't think it would be for me personally, even after growing up around a recovered alcoholic father. I went to open speaker AA meetings when I was in my early teens just to support my father. And the environment was very overly Christian. Um, but not everyone there identified as a Christian, believe it or not. And even more so seems to be the case today. When I had issues drinking and it came time for me to face up to it and admit that I had a problem, I did attend AA. And I got a lot out of that program. And the individuals that I learned from passed on a lot of valuable information. And I would encourage you, if you are struggling with, especially with chemical dependency, please ask for help. There is no shame in asking for help. Even if you need to just go to a local hospital, and they'll have a boatload of resources to help you find what option's going to work best. I've got a lot of personal emotions wrapped up in this concept, so if talking about this, if I seem like I'm being awkward, I apologize for that. But this is a deeply personal topic to me. Between my immediate family and my own personal experiences with addiction, it's a demon I've had to face more than once in my life. And it's a tough one. It really is a tough one. But like I said, there is help, and there's no shame in asking for it. And if it's not chemical dependency, if whatever it is, I'm not going to project or suggest or try to guess, but whatever it is, if there's something you're turning to as a way to avoid dealing with reality, as a way to avoid being a functional human being on a daily basis, you need to own up to that being a problem. And for some people, it's just a matter of looking at their life and saying, I am not happy. And running away and getting lost in drugs or alcohol, or getting sucked into video games for 10 to 12 hours, or downloading gigabytes of porn, whatever the vice is. This isn't making anything better. It's just making things worse. I need to put the distractions away and start building the life I actually want for myself. With some people, that's all it takes. And God's bless those people. I was not one of them. I was really not one of them. I needed a little bit more help than that. I needed to do that moral inventory and assess where I had gone wrong and own up to it and try to make things right to the best of my ability with people I had wronged. And owning up to those things and trying to better myself and make things right with other people, that was an extremely empowering experience. And some of it was painful, some of it was downright uncomfortable, but it was worth it. And if you're terrified of taking that journey, I understand. I completely understand. But if your life is spiraling, friend, brother, sister, whoever you are, if you're struggling, I believe in you. I believe that wherever you are, you can find a way to pull yourself out of the trench, out of the gutter, out of the abyss, whatever you're in, and see the light of day. I believe in you with all my heart. Ask for help. There's no shame in it. None whatsoever. Whoever needed to hear this, please keep breathing. Please don't give up. You're worth it. And I hope you decide to stick around. I hope you ask for help, and I hope you get it. The world's waiting for you to come back. So please come back. With that, friends and kin, I hope you have a wonderful week. As always, I thoroughly enjoy this time we get to spend together. And I'll see you next Sunday.